There is plenty of material criticizing Name the Trait. So in this video, I want to talk about how badly some vegans are applying it. The first is attacking a strawman. For example,
the human beings though argument is probably one of the most common arguments that are used in defense of the animal holocaust. Basically how it goes is you ask somebody, why is it that it's okay to kill cows for food and not human beings? The usual response is just cows are not humans, therefore they're just different, so it's okay to kill cows for food and it's not okay to kill humans for food. Now, when you think about it, all this really is an appeal to species. The person is really just saying, cows are not our species, therefore it is moral for me to kill cows for food. Now, if species though is the argument being used here, this person would have to hypothetically accept an alien species coming to planet Earth and saying, hey, we're just gonna mass genocide your entire species just because you're not our species.
The trait is the human species, but then he changed it into a species and proceeded to attack the strawman he made. Or we have this.
Humans that are made in God's image is why it's not okay to farm humans, but not animals. And we can bring up something like, what about Kryptonians or something? Beings that aren't human, that have what it seems to be the same level of experience as us. Is it okay to... Because he's okay with factory farming and all that, just so you know, Tristan. So
I watched your whole debate.
Yeah, so can we factory farm Kryptonians infinitely, like for bacon or Kryptonian flesh? And that's going to be an insane position. I mean, Kryptonians look like just pretty much humanoids. If you just saw one walking down the street, you would think they're human, but they're in fact not, and therefore they couldn't be made in the image of God because only humans are. So that'd be another interesting angle you can take. But yeah, also you can just, what if like over time some species evolved alongside us that was they were humans, but they had like one cow hair or something, and they weren't technically human. They weren't actually human. They were, we call them, I think some vegans have called them shmoomans or something. And the only difference between them and us is like there's this DNA that makes them not actually human, and they have this little cow hair on their arm or something. Like, is it okay to factory farm them or kill them for food? And I don't think that you would think that. Oh.
He is assuming that the trait of being made in the God's image is exclusively for humans, but being a human can be a sufficient condition. He didn't even try to understand it. Then we have this nonsense.
I'm just asking you, is that the salient trait? Is the reason you're okay with killing animals is because they're not made in the image of God?
Yes.
Okay. Then, if there was a supposed human being that was not made in the image of God, you'd be okay with killing those human beings?
Impossible in my worldview.
Absolutely is possible.
How is it possible?
Well, God could not exist.
That's impossible in my worldview.
Okay, well, you're saying it's logically impossible for there to not be a God.
No, I'm saying it's logically impossible for a human being to exist that's not made in the image of God, and
well, it is because God could not exist.
He asked for the trait and he got it, but instead of granting it, he assumed it to be false or that it could be false. That's not the point of the NTT. You grant the position of the other and you try to find a contradiction, if there is any to begin with. And we have so many vegans who use NTT, but don't understand something so simple.
So these are actually traits that humans possess, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so the question I was going to ask is, what is the proposition that is true of the animal, that if true of the humans would make it okay to kill them? So you gave me propositions which are true of the humans. I asked you, I would ask you for the propositions that are true of the animal.
If the animal possessed those traits, like an elephant does, I don't believe it's moral to kill those animals.
No. But see, I was going to ask you something like, what's the proposition that is true of the animal that if true of the humans would say it's okay to kill the human?
The guy literally answered on his question, but the vegan didn't get it. The answer is obviously the lack of given traits. You don't have to be a genius to understand that. Then we have pushing NTT where it doesn't belong.
Yeah, so I think everybody in here agrees with the idea of fundamental human rights, and I think everyone in here probably believes that we should be logically consistent. And I believe veganism is merely a logical extension of human rights. So, for the same reasons you would grant a human a right to life, I believe animals are also, or should also be granted that right to life. And if somebody believes that animals do not deserve that right, then they need to point out the differences between humans and animals that would justify that.
He didn't support claims he made, but he thinks if others disagree with his unsupported claims, they have the burden to name the trait. And then we have this nonsense.
Name the trait is a good tool for actually proving to someone that animal rights are a logical extension of human rights. Because if someone denies that, if you say, well, you know, I think animal rights are just a logical extension of human rights, most people are going to say, huh, what are you talking about? What a load of bullshit kind of thing. So that's where you employ name the trait.
Consistency test and someone being inconsistent is not a positive argument that something follows from human rights. But that's not all from this genius.
They also think that vegans are a bunch of illogical, just emotionally driven weaklings. And I think name the trait is a good way to disprove that, because it's just based on pure logical consistency. So it can be just good to ask, you know, when people say veganism is illogical, or all you have is emotions and feelings and stuff, you can say, okay, then Mr. Philosophy Guy, what is it that's true of animals that, if true of a human, would justify stabbing that human to death?
Name the trait and attacking someone's consistency cannot prove that vegans aren't illogical and emotionally driven weaklings. It's not about that. Some vegans think NTT is in fact an argument for veganism, but it actually isn't. Sometimes I don't want to play the game, and I just tell vegans to assume I'm inconsistent and to tell me how exactly me being inconsistent leads to veganism. In most cases, they don't know how to proceed after that. There are many vegans who seriously think there are only two possible outcomes for non-vegans, and that's logically fallacious. There is a third option, which is neither of the two, and that leads me to the whole absurdity thing. If they can't find a contradiction, then just hand-wave it as absurd, even though it doesn't refute someone's position. It's just a vegan damage control. Name the trait is a dumb vegan's best argument.